Does Netanyahu's support for this death penalty bill reflect a shift toward judicial fascism, or is it purely coalition blackmail by Ben Gvir ahead of looming elections?
Well, thank you, Rana, for having me and for your guest from Ramallah. Allow me, first of all, that this kind of legislation that's supported by Netanyahu and presented by his extremist terrorist minister, Ben Gvir, just comes a few months before an expected election in Israel. So probably Netanyahu thinks that this will boost his chances among the growing right-wing support within the Israeli society itself. Because let's not forget, I mean, this kind of bill basically strips Israel of its, last claim in front of the outside world that it represents a democracy and a state that respects human rights. Although all its actions since the beginning of the occupation almost 80 years ago confirmed that this is a racist regime that uses all means to discriminate against those Palestinians who live under Israeli occupation. And I mean, it might sound a little bit ironic that they consider it a step forward in Israel, this right-wing government, that they're going to legislate the death penalty for Palestinian prisoners, while they are already continue to kill Palestinians in Gaza on a daily basis and killing a total of nearly 17,000
Sorry to interrupt
over
you
the
in
past
this
2 years.
context, but in the light of a ceasefire, of course it's a fragile ceasefire, but all of this is taking place in light of a ceasefire that's supposed to be taking place, no food, no humanitarian aid, killing of Palestinians every day, and at the end of the day, what's happening, sir? I mean, is this humanity?
Well, I mean, I think again, Netanyahu is basically, basically showing his carelessness towards the entire world public opinion that has condemned him as a suspect war criminal following the 2 years we've witnessed in Gaza. And he's again trying to enforce new realities that he wants to impose after the ceasefire. I won't say the end of the war, after the ceasefire was reached. But let me, Rana, remind you that at the same time this law was being passed, we are seeing this controversy inside Israel over the leak of a video from within the Sderot Man concentration camp, let me call it this way, that was built after the beginning of Gaza war, and in which, the controversy is not over blaming soldiers who've been seen raping and torturing a Palestinian detainee, but it's been
the one,
about
sir,
the
that was
leak
responsible
of the
and
video
reported was fired.
Exactly, she was fired, but it's also what was like pretty, astonishing and like angering for me at the same time is that the argument is not about the acts of the Israeli soldiers who've basically done massive damage to this Palestinian prisoners. On the contrary, these soldiers are holding a news conference asking to be totally freed of all charges because they were allegedly carrying out their job. And that the leak of the video is what basically harmed their own reputation, not the act of torture. So, I mean, this is kind of reflective of the tendencies within the Israeli society.
I just want to interrupt you in this context and ask you, they are saying, the soldiers, that they were doing their job. So they were asked to do this?
Again, that's their own interpretation of how their job is. But again, that's a kind of a regime that sat on top of, a whole set of war crimes, not just limited to the relentless, indiscriminate bombing of Palestinians over 2 years, but even using food as weapon of war, medicine as weapon of war. I mean, imposing a famine-like condition against the Palestinians in Gaza, all this under the claim of protecting their own security. And the result was the entire international community almost right now see Israel as a pariah state, state that has no respect for any human rights. And this latest bill that you're referring to further confirms to the international community that we're facing a racist occupation that definitely has to come to an end by putting pressure on the Israelis themselves, not just to bring them to ignore passing this law, but also by bringing into practice the Trump plan that ends up with the creation of a Palestinian state in which Palestinians would be treated as equal human beings on their own homeland. That's basically what we need on the short and medium terms, because Israel has already been committing all sorts of crimes against Palestinians since the creation of the state in 1948.
Palestinian prisoners are already dying from torture and medical neglect. Does this bill, that I cannot call a bill, sorry, simply legalize the extrajudicial killings Israel has long practiced in secret? And why does Israel need secrecy at this point when Israel is already doing whatever it wants to do, killing whomever they want to kill, bombing, atrocities and genocides in Israel and out of Israel and everywhere, and they don't care?
This is what it means, that the whole society in Israel is a method or a way using cleansing,
ethnic cleansing.
Ethnic cleansing, yes, and apartheid towards the Palestinian. This much of violation of the Palestinian rights doesn't come just from this government. It comes from the whole Israeli community and the Zionist movement by its ideologic thinking and program in Palestine. So we can't talk about a normal country that needs like laws to influence these laws for like justice or something like that. It's just a movement and ideologic movement that believes that it needs to kill or transfer all the Palestinian from this land so they can be exist. It's like our exist or their exist. So in this way,
they've been killing them for the past 2 years. They've been killing them.
They need to improve for the society, the policy making in Israel. They need to improve for the society, the Israeli society, that they are still in the same path, and they are doing everything to make sure that no Palestinian will exist.
This is not everything,
in the state of Israel.
As a Palestinian you're a Palestinian that I am interviewing now, this is based on the words of our team here and our editor-in-chief and the team of Think Tank. This is Israel racing toward a dark legal turning point. It's dark for Israel. It's not dark for the Palestinians. Palestinians are already dying and killed, and they don't eat, and no humanitarian aid, and there's nothing been done about it. And everything that's been done about it, actually, Israel stops and violates and does not continue. They took the bodies of the Israelis and then they started again bombing Gaza. There's nothing new about Israel.
I actually, what I'm trying to say, that legitimizing these kinds of actions and violation, it's a way of improving for the Zionist movement and the Israeli community, that the leaders in Israel is still in the same track of making sure that there will not be any existence for the Palestinian. So I'm talking about a leader like Ben Gvir that believes that the God will not be done on earth unless they killed all the Palestinians. So making a proposal for the Knesset for killing the Palestinian prisoners, it's just one kind of showing off for his ideologic thinking towards the Palestinian. Yes, we know that by de facto, Israel is really violencing and punishing and torturing the Palestinian prisoners, and they killed so many of them, not just inside the prison, but even outside. And we witness a lot of cases that they killed handicaps, they killed children and people in the streets. because they have suspicious that they may make any kind of actions against the Israeli. It's not like they go through a trial and then they have evidence that they make harm for the Israeli to kill them. They already kill them on the streets. So what is the aim of this kind of proposal is just to improve for the Israeli community, and they are very near for the next. There are still much of will to kill more Palestinian and to kill the picture of
Ms.
victory
Nacha, I'm very
that
sorry
the
to tell you.
Palestinian have.
I'm very sorry to tell you in this context that if Israel is trying to show any trajectory, the only thing on my behalf that I have to say this today, that Israel is not showing any strength, but only they are cowards. Go on, Ms. Nacha. Dr.
Actually,
Dawood?
again, we are talking about a normal body, a normal country, a normal society, that they come together for a purpose. It's not for living in peace with the neighbors, but
okay,
they feel
Ms.
that
Nacha,
everyone in the
I'll
neighborhood
leave
is a
this
threat
back
for
and I'll
them.
come back to ask you, where is the international community? Although the international community has been working very hard in the past period, at least in the last month, it's been working very hard. Dr. Dawood, how does this motive-based mandatory death penalty expose Israel's long-standing system of militarized injustice against Palestinians under occupation?
Well, again, Rana, to be honest, I mean, one of the aspects of the racism and apartheid system that Israel has built has been its judicial system that applies two kinds of laws, one for Palestinians and one for Israelis, because, all the rights are being given to the Jewish residents of Israel, while Palestinians are being treated as second-class citizens. They are not allowed fair trials. Even their lands are being taken by court orders. Their torture is being legalized by court orders, as Mrs. Nacha said. But again, this kind of law basically exposes Israel in front of the world when, people start asking, why are Palestinians carrying out acts of resistance against the Israeli side? I mean, this is just one example of how Israel deals with their Palestinian lives with total carelessness. And further seeking to revenge against Palestinians by killing more and more among them without any sort of fair trial like we have seen throughout the past 80 years in the Israeli justice system. So basically now the world can see for themselves. We've already seen Israeli
Mr. Khaled,
National Security Minister
I see from my own point of view, and of course it's your word, but I see that this is failed propaganda, because they're doing all of this already. Why a bill? Why Knesset? Why Ben Gvir? Why all of this? Why is this happening? They don't have subjects to discuss.
Rana, it's the same Ben Gvir who was basically, making himself proud to show how the Palestinian prisoners are being forced with the faces to the ground and handcuffed from behind, and the way he invaded the cell of Palestinian Fatah leader Marwan Houthi to threaten him, and how he has basically taken pride since he took office more than 2 years ago as National Security Minister that has been torturing Palestinian prisoners, preventing them from getting the proper portions of food, they're reducing the number of visits they can get from their families. So basically, at the end of the day, we're facing the most fascist, racist government ever in Israel's history. And that's one key reason why Palestinians continue to resist this illegitimate occupation. And I was hoping that the American government, led by President Trump, when they speak repeatedly about the atrocities being committed by Hamas, that they would also look at the atrocities that are being committed by the Israeli side, whether through the arbitrary killing of Palestinians like we've seen over the past 2 years, or the imposing of the siege on the entry of much needed humanitarian goods. And lately, even when we look, Rana, at the handover of the Palestinian bodies compared to the Israeli bodies that are being handed to Israel by Hamas. Israel returns bodies without any names, without any identities, and they get buried collectively without the proper salute from their families, while the Israelis, they have all the advanced technology, and they threaten to continue to punish the Palestinians in Gaza, that they will not open up the corridors for humanitarian aid until all the remaining bodies of the Israeli 6 or 7, are returned back to Israel. So it's a reflection of the state of the Israeli society, and not just the states of its government that's now tolerating all sorts of racist and violent practices against the Palestinian people living under occupation.